My name is Rachel and I'm 34 years old. When I was 9, I broke my arm falling off my bike in front of our house, and my older sister Denise, who was 13, told our mom I'd done it on purpose for attention. I remember lying on the couch with my cast propped on a pillow, the ice pack sweating through the dish towel wrapped around it, hearing my mom say from the kitchen, "Denise is probably right, you always want to be the center of things." That was the first time I understood that in my family, whatever happened to me would be twisted into a story about my flaws. For 25 years I tried to be the daughter who didn't need anything. I stopped asking for help. I stopped crying in front of them. I built a life that looked calm from the outside, even when it wasn't calm at all: good grades, a stable job, a quiet apartment, no sharp edges, because sharp edges in my family always got sanded down roughly. I told myself if I just gave less, needed less, wanted less, eventually they'd stop treating me like a problem to manage. It took me until my late 20s to understand that giving less had never made them treat me better. It had only made it easier for them to forget I was in the room at all. 3 years ago I met Marcus. He's 36, an architect, and the first time he saw me flinch after a phone call with my mother, he didn't ask what was wrong. He just got up, filled the kettle, and set a warm mug of tea in front of me, and said, "You don't have to explain it tonight." He noticed things. Small things. Like the fact that I always sat with my back to a wall in restaurants, or that I went quiet every year in the week before my mom's birthday. He was patient in a way my family had never been, and being loved like that, without conditions, was the strangest thing I'd ever experienced. 2 years ago, my dad passed away suddenly from a heart attack. He was 61. In the chaos afterward, my mom asked me to just handle the house paperwork since you're good with that kind of thing. I didn't think much of it. I spent 6 months quietly working with a lawyer, transferring the deed of our family lake house into my name, exactly as my dad had privately arranged with me 8 months before he died. He'd told me this on a Tuesday evening, sitting in his study, the desk lamp casting a small yellow circle of light. "I don't want this place turned into a fight after I'm gone," he said, sliding a folder across the desk toward me. "I'm putting it in your name because you're the one who never asked me for anything your whole life." I asked him if he'd told Denise or Mom. He shook his head slowly. "Not yet," he said. "Some things are simpler quiet." I didn't tell Denise. I didn't tell my mom. Not out of spite, I just knew it would become a battle, and I didn't have the strength for one on top of a funeral. So I kept it quiet and let everyone believe the house was still family property, even though legally it no longer was. There was one complication in those 6 months. My Aunt Carol, my dad's younger sister, found out by accident and called me, worried, asking if I was trying to cut Denise and your mom out of something. I explained everything to her, terrified she'd tell my mother before I was ready. She listened, then said, "Your dad talked to me about this before he did it. I just needed to hear it from you." She kept the secret, quietly, without needing credit for it. 14 days before my wedding to Marcus, our family took one last trip to that lake house, a small trip Denise organized, for old time's sake, before everything changes. I should have been suspicious of how eager she was to plan it. We arrived Friday evening, the dock still warm under bare feet, the water that gold color it turns right before dusk. We took photos on the dock at sunset, all of us smiling, my mom's arm looped through Denise's. I posted one to our family group chat that night, all of us tagged, arms around each other. By morning, Denise had untagged herself from every single photo. Not deleted them. Untagged. A small, quiet erasure. I noticed at 7:14 a.m., scrolling through my phone before work, and something in my stomach went cold. Denise doesn't do anything without a reason. She has never, in 34 years, done a single thing without calculating what it would cost or earn her first. Within 24 hours, I understood why. My mom called me at 5 p.m. that same day, her voice bright in a way that made my skin prickle. "Sweetheart, Denise and I have been talking, and we think it's time the lake house went into both your names, 50-50, since it's a family property." I asked her why now, 2 years after Dad died, 14 days before my wedding. She laughed, a short, tight laugh. Well, you're about to have a husband to think about your future with. Denise has no one. She needs security too. Denise got on the phone next, her voice flat and certain. You always get everything handed to you, she said. The house should be split. It's only fair. I asked her directly, fair to who? She didn't answer. She just said, Mom already agrees with me, like that settled it. I understood then. The photos weren't about the trip at all. Denise had untagged herself because she didn't want to be visibly connected to a family property she was about to try to take half of, in case things turned messy, or in case she needed the photos to look like proof of a shared trip without her own name attached to a legal claim later. It was calculated. Quiet. The way she'd always operated. For 2 days I said nothing back, needing time to steady myself before my wedding. I found myself, on the second night, drafting a text agreeing to talk about splitting things fairly, my thumb hovering over send. It was Marcus who noticed I'd gone quiet, sitting across from me at the kitchen table while I stared at my phone instead of eating. He reached over and gently closed my phone flat against the table. You don't have to decide anything tonight, he said. But you also don't have to pretend you don't already know the answer. He asked one question, what would your dad have wanted the paperwork to actually mean? By morning, I'd deleted the draft text entirely. My mom decided to bring it up again at my own wedding rehearsal dinner, 3 days later, in front of both families, Marcus's parents, and my Aunt Carol and uncle. She raised her glass halfway through dinner and said, loud enough for the whole table to hear, we're so glad this family is finally coming together, and we're planning to formalize the lake house as shared property between the girls this year, so everything stays fair. Denise smiled down at her plate, satisfied. The table went quiet, waiting for me to smile along, the way I always had. I didn't raise my voice. I just set my fork down gently and said, calmly, the lake house isn't shared property. Dad transferred the deed to my name 8 months before he died. It's been mine for 2 years. The table went silent in a way I'd never heard before. My Aunt Carol's eyebrows lifted, though she didn't look surprised, just quietly relieved. Denise's smile disappeared, her fork frozen halfway to her mouth. My mom's mouth opened, then closed. That's not, Dad wouldn't have done that without telling me, she finally said, her voice thinner than before. He did tell me, I said. He told me because he didn't want this exact conversation to happen at my own wedding. Denise tried once more, quieter now. You could have said something sooner. I could have, I said. But every time I've said something in this family, it's been twisted into me being difficult. So I stopped saying things. Until now. No one at the table defended Denise. My uncle cleared his throat and changed the subject to the flowers for the ceremony. Marcus reached under the table and took my hand. My mom didn't speak again for the rest of dinner. Denise excused herself early, claiming a headache, and I watched her walk out without a single person getting up to follow her. 2 weeks later, at the actual wedding, I invited Denise anyway. Not because I owed her anything, but because I didn't want my wedding day defined by her absence or by punishment. She came, sat quietly in the 3rd row, and left before the reception ended, offering only a stiff hug on her way out. It wasn't forgiveness. It was just me choosing not to let her smallness shrink my day. A few months later, my mom called again, her voice smaller than I'd ever heard it. She didn't apologize outright, that's not who she is, but she asked, quietly, if she could still come to the lake house sometimes, just to sit on the porch like your dad used to. I said yes. Not because everything was resolved, but because I finally understood I could set a boundary and still leave a door open. Aunt Carol still calls every few weeks, proud, she says, of the woman my dad always said I'd become. These days, Marcus and I spend a few weekends a year at that lake house, coffee on the dock in the early morning fog, the water so still it looks like glass. I sit in the same weathered chair my dad used to sit in, and for the first time in my life, nothing about that place feels like a battlefield. It just feels like mine, quietly, without needing to be defended anymore. If you've ever sat in a room where your whole life was rewritten by people who were supposed to protect you, where your silence was mistaken for weakness, and your patience was mistaken for permission, I want you to hear this. You don't have to explode to be believed. You don't have to fight loudly to be right. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is simply state the truth once, calmly, and let the silence that follows speak for itself. Boundaries aren't cruelty. They're just the truth, finally spoken out loud. If this story felt like something you needed to hear today, stay with me. Subscribe, because every story on this channel is for someone who needed to hear it, someone sitting quietly in their own version of that dinner table, waiting to find the courage to finally say the truth out loud.